My ass is kicking so fast we won't even be started.
Is that a new and improved tripod?
No, same one. The internet's working at least.
Huh?
The internet is working at least for now.
Oh, good. There's no singers to stand up.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Yeah, for Fox. Fox Sports. Yeah, that's just not tough. Yeah. Smart. Is that what you meant? You can. It's not really about education. It's feel free. Go ahead. Elephant it up. Pick it up. Nice to see you. I know where you are. You're on Bunsen. Okay. Good.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Master Plan Committee for Ward 2. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The remaining dates for the Master Plan meetings is Ward 1 is Thursday, October 27th at 6 p.m. at Kennedy Middle School. And then Ward 7 is Tuesday, November 15th at 6 p.m. at Government Center. And then the all-city meeting is Tuesday, November 29th at 7 p.m. at Government Center. So, welcome everyone, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. The time is now 6:05 p.m. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Chairman and Councilor at Large, Randall LeBlanc.
Present.
Councilor Ward 6, Sean Durkee.
Present.
Councilor Ward 7, Paul Cass. City Council President Kathleen McMiniman. Councilor at Large Carlos Vidal.
Present.
Mayor Jeanette McCarthy. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If anyone is recording this meeting, if you could state your name and residential address for the record, please.
James Kirkellis, 19 Gorham Street.
Thank you.
George Darcy, 93 Hobbs Road.
Thank you.
Chris Hammer, 190 Adams Street.
Thank you.
James Simeone, 58 Mount Wally Road.
Thank you. Clerk, did you get that? Do you need a moment for that? Thank you. Good evening. I'm Waltham City Councilor Randy LeBlanc, Chair of the Waltham City Council Ad Hoc Master Plan Committee. With me tonight are Councilors Paul Katz, Ward 7, Sean Durkee, Ward 6, Kathleen McMiniman, Council President, Carlos Vidal, Councilor at Large, and ex officio Mayor Jeanette McCarthy, with support from the City Housing Director Robert Waters and team. And also in the room this evening, we have some officials. I'll point them out. We have Kathy Ann Harris, and we have Pat O'Brien, Karen Dunn, George Darcy. Did I miss anyone? Oh, Tom Stanley, State Rep. And I believe that's it. Thank you for that. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from Ward 3 on October 19th and Ward 4 on October 20th. Councilor Durkee made the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you for that. The specific goals for tonight's meeting is to listen to the Waltham citizens in Ward 2 and take your ideas and input. There will be other meetings scheduled to listen to the citizens in other wards. The master plan booklet can be found on the city's website under the planning department since 2007. Our city's final master plan will revolve around 9 elements: goals and policies, land use, housing, economic development, natural and cultural resources, open space and recreation, service and facilities, circulation, and then finally implementation. Our meeting tonight will be for the Ward 2 residents to share your input. May we have a show of hands of how many people will be speaking this evening? Excellent. It's going to be a long night. We have a few ground rules in order to hear input from everyone this evening. Each speaker will have a limit of 3 minutes to speak, and at the end of the 3 minutes, I will let you know you have 20 seconds to complete your statements. If each speaker could sign in and then state your legal name and address for the record, that would be appreciated. All testimony being put forward in writing for those not present will be turned into the committee secretary to be entered into the record. In essence of time, the statements will not be read this evening. All statements provided must have contact information so we can confirm directly that the statement was received and entered into the record. Also, I would like to reiterate that this is not a question and answer session. It is a citizens input hearing, so we welcome your input to be compiled at a later date. Each speaker will focus on the 9 elements I have outlined. After all members of the public who wish to give input are finished, the committee will hear from the Ward 2 Councilor, Councilor Dunn. So without further ado, we can start with our first speaker.
Good evening. Phil Moser, 62 Hiawatha Ave, Ward 2. I wanted to thank all the councilors and the mayor for engaging in this process. I see you're well represented and obviously a time-consuming process, so thank you for your dedication. In general, regarding open space, I'll focus my comments on open space. It's a passion of mine. So the city owns approximately 300 individual parcels of land and has found good uses for a lot of them, but a lot of them are undeveloped and many residents enjoy using them for open space, but most of them, their legal status is unclear. Most of them languish in the general inventory as the city council has not assigned them to any department for care and control. So for residents like me who use the, what I think of as conservation land, sometimes unclear whether I should get attached to a particular parcel and enjoy using the hiking trails there or not. So my hope is that one of the outcomes of this process of bringing together all the leaders of the city is that consensus can emerge on whether any of those parcels are intended to be preserved for conservation, and if so, if they could be assigned to a department to actually care for them rather than having them be neglected. I know there is a park ranger very well qualified with the rec department. Conservation is more thinly staffed, but I think the residents who use these land would like to see them cared for. A lot of them are parcels the city has acquired because they're in tax arrears or from other institutional property owners who neglected them. A lot of them are relatively recent acquisitions, so I'm not saying the city has neglected them, but as the city acquires these, it'd be great if they can be cared for. If you look at any of the 300 on the map, you'll find that most of them have encroachments by abutters. You'll find that if you go look at them, you'll find rusted cars out of the woods, rusted chain link fences, abandoned tennis courts and basketball courts, overgrown with invasive weeds. In spite of that, we really enjoy those parcels. We like using them, but if it were possible for a modest budget to be set aside for those, to just start one by one cleaning them up, that would be much appreciated as well. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your input. Next speaker, please.
Kai Telenar, 13 Larchmont Ave, Ward 2, obviously. I have a number of ideas, which I'm going to give you this sheet of paper afterwards. They mostly revolve around walkability and making the city safer for pedestrians and cyclists. I love it that there's a rail trail coming through, but there's a lot of other bicycle routes that are, Waltham needs more bicycle routes, and so we need to figure out, okay, where would it be safe to be able to go north-south, east-west across the city. And so there should be a plan put together that includes all of that. There's a number of zoning changes that for longer term would make walking better. So in the more walkable areas like Moody Street area, the downtown area, you can see that that's very walkable, and it's nice in part because there are no curb cuts there. That there's when you get along Main Street, going a little bit further west, then you have that big wall from Hannaford's, which makes it harder to walk. You have some curb cuts for other things which make it less safe to walk. And so figuring out what those walkable areas are, making modifications so that we link those areas together, and thinking also about possibly having a bus route that would link those areas together so people aren't necessarily walking the whole way, but they're able to get around using public transportation of some sort. There's a number of other ideas. Parking lots in general make things unsafe. You look along Lexington Street at Wall-Lex, and you have, if you're trying to walk along there, there's a sidewalk, then there's a whole bunch of parking, and then there's another sidewalk right in front of the building, the businesses. Really, the type of parking that there is at Moody Street, where you have a back where you can park, and you come around to the front where there's a lot of interesting things to see. People, it becomes more lively and inviting, and any public transportation that there is coming along the street or street parking, it's easy to get to the stores, and it's safe to get to the stores. And so having zoning changes to make that more preferable and easier. I have some of those listed down here also. In general, it makes sense, especially in some of the areas that you'd want to see more people coming along, to allow some denser housing. And so Waltham is becoming more expensive to buy houses, and so to be able to afford that, it would be nice to allow apartments, with what they call in a lot of the other towns that allow that now. What's it called again? Sorry. Accessory apartments. So being able to have those be built easily by right, each property would be able to have an accessory apartment, and the dimensions and all that would all be laid out in zoning also. There's a lot of benefits to improving walkability. I've named some of them. Increased traffic for businesses, because it's more, if you have more people traveling, they're more likely to buy stuff. But it's also healthier. If you're able to walk to places, you're not going to be getting into your car. It reduces congestion. There's a bunch of problems that the city, currently has that would be improved by making it more walkable, making it more bikeable, and allowing all these other changes in the future. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Dan Berlin, 32 Oak Street, 20-year resident and now business owner in Waltham. Reading on behalf of the Waltham Land Trust, of which I am a board member. The Waltham Land Trust is pleased that the City of Waltham is seeking community input as it updates and combines its current master plans. Our board of directors and 360 dues-paying members, along with hundreds of supporters, request the City of Waltham master plan to recognize the reality of climate change by preserving all open space in the city, regardless of size. The city can make permanent conservation of open space a priority by placing conservation restrictions, or CRs, on land acquired by the city for open space, where legally required when community preservation funds have been used. There are several properties in Ward 2 that are part of the Hardy Pond Conservation Area, which was funded by the Community Preservation Committee in 2018. The Waltham Land Trust urges the city to implement Phase 2 of the HPCA by retaining a land protection specialist to negotiate with applicable landowners to either acquire for purchase and fee at appraised value, or develop alternative options to place conservation restrictions on designated parcels in our ward and Ward 3. Jericho Hill, a parcel in Ward 2, is a prime example of how open space can be converted to development when there are no conservation restrictions in place. Waltham Land Trust members were greatly disheartened when we lost part of Jericho Hill to development, and hope placement of conservation restrictions will help the city retain open space for future generations to enjoy. Therefore, the Waltham Land Trust requests a conservation restriction to be placed on Sanderson Heights, the 26-acre parcel abutting the former Jericho Hill and new high school campus, which was first purchased by the city for open space and recreation purposes in September 2007. And that's on behalf of the Waltham Land Trust, which I mentioned could submit, And just more on a personal note, thank you for the opportunity. And I'd also like to see some traffic calming on Lincoln Street.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Emily Superior, 308 League Street. I want to say thank you to the mayor and the city council for conducting this thorough citizen input process while updating the city's master plan. Much of the plan itself, the 2007 document, was drawn according to the city records from citizen input. I feel more confident having reviewed that document that the master plan has been and can continue to be a municipal guiding document shaped by resident input. I have thoughts. As part of any economic development plan, I think we ought to assess the city of Waltham's current digital infrastructure and conduct a feasibility study on developing our own Waltham municipal light plant. Such a study would allow us to investigate the pros and cons and even possibilities of running our own power and even internet utilities. For the safety and well-being of all residents, we need bi-directional protected bicycle lanes on Lexington Street, running from the Wagon Wheel to the Waltham Common, or Conference Street to Main Street. The stretch is just about 3 miles even, including the new high school, and gets quite close to connecting North Waltham to Moody Street by a protected bicycle lane. It's good for the Waltham economy, it's good for traffic, and it'll help keep our kids and the adults safe. How awesome would a sidewalk on Lincoln Street be? It could go through a brand new protected Citizen Heights area. I think it would be cool. I'm concerned about zoning. It's time to review and update our zoning code to reflect and respond to the 22 landscape and meet resident needs, especially those identified in the 2007 master plan that have not yet been met, such as in the areas of housing. For example, updating zoning codes could allow the creation of accessory dwelling units, which has been discussed, tiny houses, and other novel housing stock. Could on-site worker housing be created for those working or apprenticing at the various Waltham farms, which are ramping up? And will people who grew up in Waltham be able to open businesses here? Maybe, if we review our outdated zoning and look at the possibilities of updating it. I'm wondering if there's enough demand for the 61 bus to run more than once an hour and run later than 8 o'clock p.m. I can't remember what the last service change was and what the rationale was, but the lack of public transportation makes it difficult to do basic errands in North Waltham without a car. I'd like to see the Columbus statue removed from the Waltham Common. It's not a cultural resource. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Hammond. I live at 210 Lake Street in Waltham, Ward 2. First, I want to thank you guys for taking citizen input and for having the opportunity for us to give our thoughts on the master plan. Most of the things that I'm concerned about are revolving around sustainability and the environment. So most of the things that I'm going to mention kind of relate to that. And I'm relieved that some people have already brought them up. So the first thing I wanted to bring up was improved infrastructure for bikes and pedestrians. Living in Ward 2, I can get on Lexington Street pretty easily with my car and go straight down to the center if I want to go to the commuter rail station or to Moody Street. But I just think if I wanted to ride a bike, like I would never do that the way the streets are now, especially through that intersection with Bacon Street and Todd Pond Road. So it's been brought up already, but if we can get protected bike lanes, I think throughout the city would be great, but especially on Lexington Street, for Ward 2 residents specifically would be really helpful. Anything that removes a car from the road is going to help us with traffic, with the climate, and with freer parking spaces once we are downtown. So I think making downtown as accessible as possible to people who don't have cars, or maybe even do have cars and don't want to use them, would be a huge benefit to all of Waltham's residents. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I really enjoyed the past couple of years when the Moody Street has kind of transformed into a pedestrian plaza. I know that we've only been doing that for a few years and it lasts for almost half the year, but I would love, if possible, to see that become a permanent pedestrian plaza. And the main reason for that is because there's no natural tree canopy at all on the south, on the south side of Waltham, especially on Moody Street. Like I was at the Phantom Gourmet Food Festival in not this year, but in 2020, I think it was. And it was pretty hot and there was no relief from the sun. And with the way summers go nowadays, that becomes actually pretty dangerous to certain people. So I would love if we could permanently make that a pedestrian plaza, and then we'd have the opportunity to add things like potentially a median with trees or something like that that's can be permanent if we don't have to worry about cars, being able to go through them at all times. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was energy. Another thing I was really happy about in recent Waltham history is the getting the community choice aggregation. That made me feel really good because our base electricity for everyone is, first of all, it has more renewable energy than the rest of the state, or than the state requires at the time, and it allows people like me to opt up to 100% if we want to. It's also going to save us a bunch of money this winter as energy prices go up. But I just want to make sure that I voice that. I would love to see that continue. I don't know exactly when that comes up again for rebid, but I would love to see if we can get even higher base level of renewable energy. And then thanks to the most recently passed state climate bill that passed earlier this year, there's 10 cities and towns now that get to pilot banning additional natural gas infrastructure, including some of our neighbors like in Arlington and Newton. I don't know all the details about how that gets implemented, and I believe that's limited to 10 cities and towns at the moment, but I assume that's something that's going to expand as time goes on and as the state allows us to, and I would love if Waltham could jump on the bandwagon on that. We know that there's major gas leaks in Waltham. I was there at the city council meeting when Deb Wild was the leader of Mothers Out Front and led a presentation about the super spreaders, thank you. Not super spreaders, sorry, the super emitters, I think they were called, and how it's cheaper for the gas companies to just let those leak than to fix them. So I would love if we could, as soon as possible, address that, address the leaks, but also stop adding new gas infrastructure. And I'll end there, thank you.
Hi, Elizabeth Dill, 218 College Farm Road. Sorry, Elizabeth Dill, 218 College Farm Road. Sure, sorry about that. I hate mics. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to the mayor and the councilors for being here tonight. I'd like to speak on behalf of the Waltham Fields Community Farm. I am a member of the farm for the past 2 years, and my son and I have loved having that as a resource. We don't actually participate in the CSA, but he does the educational programs both as a summer camp and the fall after school programs there. And one thing we have loved about living in Waltham for the past 10 years is just the dedication to open space like playgrounds and other resources for kids to have healthy outdoor activities to participate in. So my understanding is with the acquisition by the city of the 240 Beaver Street property, right now the farm is kind of in limbo. So I would like to request that you prioritize releasing an RFP so that they can hopefully acquire a lease to continue the good work that they do for the citizens of Waltham for providing healthy food and options to be outdoors and outdoor education. I think it's a wonderful resource that our city has. I love that we have a farm in our city, and I'd like to see it continue. Right now, they have hundreds of thousands of dollars that they have in grant money that they cannot use until they have a lease. They're dedicating that money to building up the property and making sure that they continue the good work that they do there, but they need the support from the councilors and the mayor to provide a lease for them. So I would like to see that happen. And on another note, just thank you again for all the work you do to have made all the parks wonderful and those resources for kids and families. Thank you.
Douglas Bibbo, 36 Glen Circle, Ward 2. I'll be brief. I'm going to piggyback on the comments about the sidewalks. In particular, any update for the sidewalks that go from the Lincoln at Winter Street stop sign to Lincoln at Lexington Street. Kids that get the bus there have to walk in the street. Kids that go to Kennedy have to walk in the street until they get onto Curve Street. I would like to see the CPW along with the Forestry Department trim back Lincoln Street from the Winter Street stop sign up until Gregory. That would be both sides along with the canopy. It's overgrown and needs attention. I'd like you to look into CPA funding for a community pool, specifically one that could benefit the high school swim team. They don't have a home right now. And lastly, I would strongly oppose any future plan for Moody Street. The traffic on the south side from someone that grew up down there and works down there is unbearable. Between Newton Street, Pine Street, Lowell Street, Adams Street, Crescent Street, Maple Street, and Prospect Street, they're overwhelmed on Thursdays and Fridays, and sometimes on Saturdays. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Malooly, 80 Seminole Ave. First, I'd just like to say that I appreciate living in a town that offers compost bins and rain barrels and recycling and buys the field station and has a lot of kind of history in preserving open space. So my comments tonight are really more of an observation. Just as I look in this neighborhood, when I moved in here 20 years ago, there are a lot of small 1,000 square foot footprint homes torn down, and something was built back up, maybe a couple thousand square feet. Now I'm seeing 3,500 square foot homes going in. And I think about the impact on our infrastructure, the drain on water, electricity, and I'm not suggesting we need to make a big change to building codes, although I'm sure you're getting a lot of feedback on that. But it's really about balancing everything else. People mentioned bike lanes, preserving open space. So as we're losing basically 75% of homeowners' land that absorbs water, trees are being displaced. The property 3 doors from me, 2 trees went down. There's absolutely no space for somebody to put something back up. So it's really about the big picture and looking at trying to balance everything off. I've done a little research for this meeting, and it's complicated. I can't imagine what everyone has to be looking at and researching. But I do think with the climate bill being signed this year, there's a real opportunity to look at things. My understanding is the handcuffs have been taken off for a lot of initiatives that were environmentally sound, that were nixed with past legislation in this state. So I guess I just urge you to look at things from a bird's eye view, try to make this as environmentally friendly while we still have to balance the financial aspects of living in the city and people having an affordable place to live. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Tammy Rose, 113 Mara Vista. I would just like to say that I lost my trust in you guys with the taking of Jericho Hill, all right? And as much as we're all asking for sustainability and like please preserve like the tree canopies and stuff, I frankly have no faith that you guys are gonna choose any of that. And that really saddens me. Not only is it, you know, you changed things because of the high school, you wanted more land, and that hurts, but also like, you also have purchased the farm, like College Farm, and we talk about history, and this is a farm that has been in existence for hundreds of years, and I still don't know what you guys are gonna do with it. I'm really scared So, and in case anybody doesn't understand a deep history of like zoning, I live in a tiny little cabin, you know, approximately 1,000 square feet, and I had one neighbor move and I had two neighbors move and another neighbor pass away, and there was a developer who took all of those plots, and instead of 3 houses, you put up 5 houses, and they're cookie cutter, ugly McMansions. I would ask that you guys look into tiny houses that have been mentioned, accessory dwellings. Actually think about how to, you know, not just give in to all of the economic pressures, but also understand that we're building a community, and we want people to actually live in a variety of houses. We want the sidewalks, we want the bike lanes, we want the trees, so please stop taking them down, and like actually think and be thoughtful about the parks, and also transparency would go a long way, because I feel like there's something called social media, and you guys are really taking advantage of that. Because I'm not really sure what you guys are doing, but I would love to know, and I attend things like this. I try to be aware, but I feel like I still don't have the trust back. So good luck with that, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, thank you. I hadn't planned on speaking. I was just coming to listen and learn. And oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Hello, yes, my name is Karen Fry, and I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to have a meeting like this. I'm a lifelong, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Speak your residential address.
Oh, sure. My name is Karen Fry, P-R-U-Y, and I currently live at 284 Lincoln Street with my husband, Jim. We've lived here in this house since 1995. I grew up in Waltham. I was born on School Street. I lived on Charles Street, Myrtle Street, Eddy Street. I moved to North Waltham because my grandfather, who owned our home on School Street, remarried and moved to Waltham Ave, and I grew to love North Waltham. So when we were looking for a home, the affordable homes were in North Waltham, and that's fortunately we were able to purchase our home, which is one of those houses you're hearing about, a cottage bungalow. It says 1,200 square feet, but the livability is more realistically 800 square feet. But anyway, so we have seen a lot of changes, and sure we've seen the tiny homes like ours, or small cottages coming down, and the larger ones growing up, and Lincoln Street is looking so very different. So I am concerned about the footprints and realizing that trees come down, and our neighbor actually wanted us to take our trees down so they could have a garden. And I said, no, our trees are hundreds of years old and they're not going anywhere. So I'm aware of that. And also I live across from Sanderson Heights, where in 2007, I believe it was, the community on Lincoln Street and surrounding, we actually got together to fight the development of I forget how many homes. It was unrealistic. The homes, it was probably 40, 50 or more. Somebody could probably correct me on that. So the power of community is real, and I recognize that, and we're so grateful. They actually wanted to build a street, if you can imagine. I live out of the curve, like we call it Dead Man's Curve. Frankly, no one has had any car accidents in a long time. But when I was younger, when I was in my big Chevy racing up that street, I enjoyed it, but I don't enjoy it anymore. It's very dangerous to even put our trash out. I've been almost run over twice by just putting my trash out, because there are no sidewalks. I would happily give up some of our forefront land to provide a sidewalk from. We're talking about School Pond Lane up into Gregory Road, and my kids grew up on the street, and I dreaded, I made my son promise never to ride his bike down that street, and their grandkids too, and I'm sure when I wasn't looking, they did. I now have gotten to the point where, because of the overgrown that somebody was talking about, I actually go up Lincoln to go down Gregory to go to Winter, because it's pretty dangerous sometimes, and people fly up and down that street, and they cross over the dividing line, so it's really not a safe place, particularly after dark. And I had recognized that someone put a warning light, you know, like how fast you're going at the Winter Street to Lexington Street side, and we wish really that we could have something like that, even if it doesn't prevent it, at least somebody is recognizing, hey, this 20 miles an hour, you're about to, coming downhill, you're picking up speed. So I know I'm talking a lot and I'm echoing the same things. So I just wanted to focus on the Powell community, how we were able to save Sanderson Heights, but we thought we saved it, and now we recognize we really didn't, because it's one of those pieces of land that the city acquired and is taken care of, but it's in a limbo status. So I echo the sentiments about what happened to Jericho Hill. That's when I learned about how Sanderson Heights could someday be taken as well. So if the temporary status or the unsure status of these lands that the community thinks may be protected could actually be protected, so we'd have the reassurance that developers wouldn't just come in and destroy even more. Also, the bike rails. I've been going to other communities nearby, and I've been going to other communities nearby, and I've been seeing the bike rails. And I don't ride my bike anymore, but I have family members who do. And it would be awesome if we could and I know putting bike rails in would subtract from the width of the roads, but in key places near the new school, coming down Lincoln Street, that would be unrealistic, but near the new school, there are going to be kids riding bikes to school, hopefully, and hopefully they'll be safe doing so, particularly now with the new entrance. And also, one final thing. We don't have a lot of land, but we would love to be able to put a tiny house or something like it on our property for, at some point, because we're aging and our land is high and we'd love to stay there. But so something that realistic, that we could use our own land without destroying any trees, etc., to suit our needs. And I really appreciate this meeting today. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Randall, and my address is 10 Gregory Street. First, I want to say thank you to the Mayor and the City Council and all the other councilors who are here also for a chance to address you tonight. I want to start with two positive things, which are that I am very happy to see that the green communities status of the city is continued, and also that we are getting regular grants through that status. And I also wanted to say that I really have enjoyed having some wonderful playgrounds and parks around, and Prospect Park. I have nieces and nephews, and we bring them here all the time. I would like to echo some of the things that people have mentioned as concerns, one of which is bike lanes and walkability in the city, and also public transit, especially for the North Waltham area. As I get older and I'm not sure how much longer I will be driving, I can see that if there is not better public transit, I would need to move, because right now everything is by car. I would also like to echo support for putting land purchased for conservation, put it under conservation restriction, especially land that was purchased with CPA funds, as the CPA restrictions were required. Addressing gas leaks and banning additional natural gas infrastructure, I also support. A couple of people have mentioned the situation at 240 Beaver Street with the tenants there And I would like to encourage both the mayor and the city councilors to release the RFPs so that the 5 tenants there can continue with leases so that we may all continue our businesses that have been going on there for very many years and serving the citizens of Waltham and nearby communities. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Grant Oberg. I live at 32 College Farm Road. Thank you all for coming tonight to hear us. Thank you to all of the neighbors who also came to care about their community. It's really heartening to see this. I want to speak on 3 closely related topics: open space, housing, and recreation. I think a lot when we talk about these things, we think that they live in tension, that to have one, you've got to give up something from the other 2, and I don't think that that's true. A lot of our open space is in danger. And open spaces are the lungs of our city. They provide, peace, relaxation, recreation, health. I would like the city to legally protect the open space that it has purchased. There's the parcel off of Lincoln Street, the farm that I bought last summer. The health benefits of parks and forests are real. It pays off for everyone, and it pays off huge dividends. We're also in a housing crisis. All of Eastern Massachusetts is in a housing crisis of our own making. Refusing to build housing hurts our economy and pushes out families who have lived here for generations. We need to upzone in Waltham. Nearly all of northern Waltham is single family only. We've all seen houses that have been damaged or neglected and purchased by developers are being torn down for new houses. Does it really make sense in that situation to bulldoze a house to build a single 4,000 square foot, $1.5 million McMansion? Is that really the best use of that space? It isn't, but that's the only option under current zoning. We can preserve our open space and add housing units to our ward and build our economy in a sustainable way by upzoning to allow ADUs and multifamily homes like double or triple deckers. There is demand for more local shops and amenities. We have one sit-down restaurant in this ward. One. I'll see you all there after this. We need to allow more commercial spaces, reduce or eliminate parking minimums, allow infill development, make it easier for small business owners to get permits and open on schedule so that they stop losing money. One common refrain that we hear, I'm sure this is on everyone's community meeting bingo card, Waltham is overdeveloped. I hear that word so much when I come to meetings like this. Waltham is not overdeveloped. Waltham ranks 21st in the Commonwealth in population density behind Boston, Watertown, Arlington, Belmont, and Newton. Belmont. We're less dense than Belmont. What people say when they say Waltham is overdeveloped is that the traffic is bad. Because Waltham isn't overdeveloped, it's too dependent on cars. Lines and lines of single occupancy cars choke our streets every day. We can't just say that we'll lobby the MBTA for better service. We all know that they won't do it. It's not going to happen. The city is on its own when it comes to transportation. But we make it too difficult to eliminate cars from short errands. Anyone who says there's no appetite for bike or pedestrian infrastructure has never been on Lexington Street as school is starting or getting out. And when I run around the neighborhood, no matter what time of day, I see people of all ages and backgrounds on bikes, e-bikes, scooters, or just walking. We need to re-engineer our ward's main thoroughfares like Lexington Street, Totten Pond Road, Lake Street and Chapello Road to offer separated bike lanes and wider sidewalks with narrower roads to slow down car traffic. I'm a breezer. I love living here. I've been here for 6.5 years. I think Waltham is the best run city I've ever lived in. It's my home, and I hope the council will work to make Waltham a livable, more sustainable place for years to come. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Anyone who wishes to speak?
Chairman. I am from Ward 6, but I was unable to attend the meeting. Am I allowed to speak here?
You are, you can notify us for the Ward 6.
Thank you. My name is Ronald Bousquet, 244 Linden Street. First, I'd like to thank the mayor, the city council, the school committee, the police department, the fire department, public works department, the teachers. We are blessed in this city with a great, great city government. My biggest concern, and I'm listening a lot to a lot of different people today, but I think the biggest concern is colleges in the city. We have 2 universities, and they are allowing, or people are buying bigger homes and turning them into mini dorms. I have a mini dorm right next to me. There are nights, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, they're out in the backyard talking loudly. It kind of stinks when it's a nice night, you have your windows open and you're woken up by people talking next door. And that's really my biggest thing. I think we have great parks, we have a lot of new schools, and I think we're doing a great job. And I think that's one thing we have to look at, how to stop mini dorms from happening in single-family neighborhoods. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather May. I live at 41 Mokima Avenue here in Ward 2. I do want to echo my thanks to the mayor and the city council for having these meetings. I think the information that you get from the communities is priceless. We're very aware that every neighborhood has slightly different needs, slightly different concerns, and so being able to go to each ward and get that input, just even tonight, I've heard from people that absolutely know a lot more than I do about zoning and bike lanes and things like that. So one of my requests that I would make is that we continue to get public input. And I don't know if any of you are avid cyclists. I am not. And I don't always understand exactly how bike lanes work, but I work downtown, basically on Boston Common, where they just this past couple of years have put in bike lanes everywhere, and there was like a week of confusion, and then everybody figured it out. And I think that we can do that too. But I think that one of the things they did was have a lot of input from people who ride their bikes in the city, who know the neighborhoods. And so I hope that, I hear that there's talk of a cycling infrastructure ad hoc committee, and that the original plan was that there would be some community members on that. I heard that there was some dissent in that, and I'm really, really sad to hear a city council say that they don't want members of the community on a committee that is going to change such, hopefully going to change such an important part of our transportation infrastructure. We are entirely too dependent on cars, which also brings us into zoning. I did read that one of our local cities got rid of parking requirements for development at their meeting yesterday. It's something that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the huge number of parking lots that we have that are half empty all the time. And as more and more people focus away from cars and are trying to be more considerate of the climate and trying to do their part, we need to help keep them safe.
to be able to do that. Which also brings us to, in Ward 2, the lack of sidewalks and the speeding. We don't have sidewalks on random streets. Right around MacArthur, we have a lot of streets that are cut-throughs that have no sidewalks. And the kids walk to school in the morning with no sidewalks. It's just, I don't understand. We have the nice big wide streets up here in most of North Waltham, and we need to be able to keep our kids safe. Also related to that, I think out front is a good example. People fly down Lake Street, Lincoln Street, Lexington Street, farther down, and with no regard for the fact that this is a school, there's a school zone. I would love to see a raised crosswalk outside of MacArthur to, one, mitigate the speeding, and two, to keep the kids safe. I don't want us to wait until some little kid gets hit and then we decide to do it. I think that we need to have a serious conversation in Waltham about our zoning, and especially in Ward 2. And as my fellow community members spoke about so eloquently, we have an attachment to single-family zoning that is unhealthy for us because it is not what Waltham needs. We need to be able to increase our inventory of housing, and we're not going to do that by tearing down smaller single-family homes and just putting up bigger single-family homes that are almost always built to code minimum and are doing nothing to help our climate. That is really, really terrifying when I see 5, 6, 10, 15 of those new houses built at code minimum with absolutely no thought to sustainability going into them. My house, 41 Mokima, was one of those little 800 square foot bungalows when we bought it. We fell in love with it, even though it was missing a bedroom that we needed. My wonderful husband, who is here with me, is a builder, and he built a passive house for us. And we now, because of the solar and because of the codes that he used to build the house, we haven't paid an electric bill in years. And that is what we need to be working towards. And we can do that. The developers are not going to come in and go, oh, hey, I really want to build this slightly more expensive to build right now house. They're not going to do that. We have a responsibility as a city to say, yes, you will do this because it's the best thing for Waltham and it's the best thing for our planet. Thank you so much.
Any more speakers?
I should probably know better than to speak after my wife, Heather May, but my name is Nathaniel May, and I also live at 41 Mokima Ave. Heather and I moved to Waltham in 2014, and as she mentioned, we bought one of the 1950 800 square foot houses there. When we were looking at it, we've been looking for houses for a long time. We were living in Medford, and we had a lot of friends in Arlington. I own a design build, architecture, and construction company focused on residential additions, remodels, and new construction, and we anyway, after looking for a long time for a house in the sort of Arlington, Medford, couldn't afford Somerville at that time, and we found this house and just really were really attracted to the community, to being able to walk to MacArthur, and the sort of scale of the neighborhood. And but before we even bought it, at that time we were a family of 4. We have an older daughter who's since gone off to college, but plus 2 dogs, so 800 square feet with 2-bedroom and 1 bathroom. And Heather and I slept on a pull-out couch for about 5 years. Because we started quite soon after that with plans to expand, and I did most of the work myself, so it took a lot longer than any of our clients would tolerate. But I was focused on not tearing it down, to look at what we could use from the existing and just expand it. So we ended up with an 1,800 square foot house, and it has 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. It's more than enough for us. We have a solar array on the roof. And we actually had gas brought in. We had to extend it down the street, shared it with our neighbors, because at that time I didn't think that, I thought I could live with everything except for gas for cooking. In the meantime, we found electric induction. So long story short, we generate, right now as we sit, we're 2,000 kilowatt hours in excess on the calendar year of what we've consumed, and we only use electricity for the house. Everything is electric. There's no fossil fuel. The other big part of that is that I'm very focused on sustainability and really support all the comments that have been made in that regard, about advocating for Waltham to adopt, be a leader in sort of sustainable construction and development. And since we have lived there, in the past 2 years, there's been maybe a little more than that. There's one project that's just finishing now, but 2 budding properties have been torn down and built new houses on them. One of the houses was built at exactly the same time that ours was, so I know what its construction was, and that it would have been possible to salvage it. The other property was, not well built from the beginning. So I understand them being torn down, but the issue is that what's being put in their place is, it meets the building code for energy use, but they're basically plastic houses. They're built with fossil fuel made vinyl siding, spray foam insulation, and plastic trim. And the amount of energy that's being saved is going to take, the amount of energy that's being saved is going to take 150 years to pay it back in order, because of the materials that are used in it. So I guess what I'm advocating for is that the city of Waltham has a vision for how we can become a sustainable community. And I think that, what I've seen is that the master planning process is just kind of looking at doing this here and doing this there and doing it there. And what we really need is like a really big vision for how Waltham can be a leader. Waltham is such a fortunate community because compared to the other communities around us, there is so many natural resources. Waltham has so much to offer, but we need a vision that will take that into account.
My name is Deb Skelsis, 295 College Farm Road. People have mentioned it, but I just want to reiterate traffic. That little triangle between, if you want to make it a triangle between Lexington and Lake Street, and I guess College Farm Road is right in the middle. Despite of the fact that it's pretty mountainous, I sometimes think I'm in the middle of a runway. People use it as a cut through. I don't know where they're cutting through or around. But I just wish we could do something to, I think somebody used the term calm the traffic. I don't know about putting speed bumps, but I don't know, maybe putting an old cruiser there or something, you know, or having a, you know, as a service, doing something to calm it. They just moved this summer, but I had a couple of neighbors, my neighbors had a couple of little kids, and I was terrified that one of them, you know, little boy, little girl was going to throw the ball to the other one and get run over because somebody, you know, decided to go like you know, like crazy, cutting between Lake Street and Lincoln Street through College Farm Road in Princeton. Something's really got to be done. I mean, those roads are steep and windy, and as I think somebody mentioned, the speed limit's 20 miles an hour. And I guess some people feel it's fine to double that to 40 and add 5 to it. I don't know, but something really needs to be done about this. The other thing, people have been talking a lot about public transportation or alluding to it. After the pandemic, they've reworked the buses a little bit. I work in Dorchester, and there's no way if I want to get to work reasonably on time, I could take the 60 to downtown, okay, and pick up the one bus, which comes, if it feels like it, every 20 minutes between about 6:30 and 9 o'clock. You know, then once you get on a pike, I mean, there are days, today it took an hour and a half to get in, 12 miles. There used to at least be additional buses, plus buses during the middle of the day, bringing you into downtown. I understand, you know, this is the MBTA, not the city of Waltham, but I think we do pay something into the city of Waltham, into the MBTA. The 553, 54, 56, and 58 don't run into Boston anymore. They run into Newton, and then you've got to, if you want to take one of those in, you got to wait until, I guess, a 501 or 502 come. And, you know, once again, I know the T is having issues with money, but waiting for the 505, I would say about half of the time, well, maybe not most recent, but up until the last schedule change, they were often route skipped. So if I'm there at 10 minutes of 7, I think I'm going to get on a bus at 10 minutes past 7, and the bus might come around 7:30. That's no fun if it's really hot or it's raining or, you know. So if we can, you know, I mean, you said services. I don't know if this directly, you know, this meeting is directly for that, but people have been talking about public transportation, and that, by the way, is one of the reasons fewer and fewer people are taking public transportation. With all of this new development, yeah, it would be nice if more people took it, but the ridership's going down. The ridership goes down because every time a new schedule comes out, there are fewer and fewer buses. And, oh, by the way, about every year they usually raise the rates. So, you know, I mean, it's just bad. It's just bad. And anyways, I think I've taken up enough time. I want to thank all of you folks for giving us the opportunity to talk. Thank you very much.
Phil St. Marie, 28 Autumn Lane, Ward 2. I think I can identify the problem. When I go out, I'm retired, when I go out in the morning, I'm talking about Smith Street. That's the one that runs parallel to 128, and Trapello Road goes through it. So that's what I'm talking about. That road will take you across Trapello over to Route 2. When I use that road, the traffic coming into Waltham on that Smith Street goes back about a mile. So if you're facing traffic like that, trying to get into, the other half of Smith Street goes into Wyman Street, which also goes right along 128 into that big building complex they just did. So a lot of these people are going to that place. The backup is incredible with the ongoing traffic coming in. So that's why all these side roads, like Lincoln Street, Lake Street, those are people trying to avoid that backup they're trying to get to work. My solution is to let the traffic lights run longer. When you have the intersection of Smith Street and Trapello Road, if that light or an officer was there to allow more of the traffic to go through and reverse it at nighttime, then you'd have less people going around through the neighborhoods because they know they're not going to be waiting in that 1 mile backup. Thank you for listening.
The first person with a solution versus a problem. If there's no further speakers this evening, I will turn the meeting over to the Ward 2 Councilor, Councilor Dunn.
Thank you. I'm going to face these guys. These are the guys I represent. So I am Karen Dunn. I am the Ward 2 Councilor, and many of you here tonight already know me because I either put you on an email list or I invited you to come and tried to keep you as informed as I possibly could. If you haven't met me yet, or if you're new to the area, please come up and introduce yourself. But I'm actually looking around and I actually do know everybody, so I'm pretty good. So I'm here to help, and I want to thank everybody that made the effort to be here in person. I know that it's a rainy night, and you could have been home watching Netflix, but instead you came here, so we appreciate it. And the fact that you are here shows that you care about your community, and it really starts there. If any other issue comes to mind and you didn't get a chance to express it, or you weren't as eloquent as you wanted to be when you're at the podium, you should not worry, because you can always follow up with an email to me or to the mayor, and we will make sure that that gets put into the mix here. And reminding you again of the recap meeting at the end of all of these board meetings, which will be November 29th at Government Center. And that meeting, I believe, will be recorded at Government Center. So you'll have a chance to watch that back as well. So this is the first time I've been asked to participate in such a meeting, and it really is the best time for you to be heard, and I'm glad that you took that opportunity. The folks on the Master Plan Committee you see behind me will compile the comments from all the wards, and with the help of field experts, craft an updated master plan going forward for the next 10 years. And I want to thank them behind me. They've been introduced already, but I want to thank them. Also, there's a few other counselor colleagues that showed up last minute that didn't get a shout out. So Colleen Bradley MacArthur, counselor at large, and Jonathan Paz, counselor from Ward 9. These are people that you didn't get to meet when you first got here. So some of your concerns are statewide, nationwide, everybody concerns. We all care about pedestrians, we all care about the conditions of the roads, our sidewalks. Public transportation is a big one, especially since we're one of the few communities in the western part of Boston that don't have a very robust public transit system. But I've also heard some subtle messages too, and some things that are really eye-opening to me, like for example, just to clean up some of the green space we have and make it more palatable and acceptable and not scary to find old cars and junk in there. The idea of a community pool, which was something I never would have known was a need unless one of our constituents came and told us that. So, you know, that's a new thing that came out of tonight that I didn't know needed to be discussed. Another thing that I heard a lot was tiny houses. I've not had a lot of experience hearing about that or talking about it, so I appreciate that. And I do want to share with you that in reading the plan from 2007, I'm actually very happily satisfied to see the progress we've made so far. And we will continue to advance this city with this updated plan. And the work will continue, it always will. I want to mention 3 things that actually are happening on some of these streets right now, so you know that work is being done, which is Lincoln Street is in the traffic commission right now regarding speeding down that hill and the junction of Gregory. Okay, so that's in there. There is a Lake Street speed study that's also in the traffic commission right now, which is to consider a rapid demand crosswalk at Princeton and Lake to see whether or not the demand has changed, whether or not the age group has changed. In the past, it hadn't been necessary or had not been deemed necessary by the traffic commission, but we're looking at that again. And lastly, on Lincoln at kind of right before PC Farms, there is a pedestrian only crosswalk movable pylon. So some things are getting done, and then obviously there's more to do, but just to let you know that there is some progress and more to. Good night, everybody, and safe travels home. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attendance. Just want to touch base on a couple of points. I think, I don't know if he was mentioned, the councilor from Ward 4, John McLaughlin, is in attendance. Last evening at the full city council, Councilor Darcy's bike lane resolution was approved to be sent to the master plan committee. And Councilor Darcy had also mentioned a subcommittee to further evaluate the potential of the bike lanes. So I will work with the proper channels and Councilor Darcy on the formulation of the subcommittee, just so everyone is aware. And then also, as we continue our outreach, we will have Director Waters reach out to groups in the city and have some smaller breakout meetings, just so we can continue all the input for the master plan. So thank you everyone for coming, and you obviously deserve a round of applause for showing up and caring about your community. And it's the only way that the master plan committee can have any input to compile this data is by all of the input we receive. So at this time, it is 7:20. I will accept the motion to adjourn. Councilor Down, motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. We have adjourned at 7:20 p.m.
second, you